Be 100.
We can probably get started. It's 4 o'clock.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, 4 o'clock, call the meeting to order. Ashley, would you like to say a few words while you're here?
Well, we have an item on the agenda.
No,
That'd be
number 3.
Yeah. Introduction to new members.
There you go.
Okay, either way, has request staff confirmation that the Kansas Open Meeting Act required notice has been properly provided?
Yes, it has.
Thank you. Roll call. Ashley, now you get to.
Just say your name.
Ashley Campbell.
Bruce Richardson.
Larry Pencratz.
Paul Gephardt. John Miller.
Okay.
Dan Zimmerman.
Yes.
And then we have,
And so we do have a quorum. We have normally 7 members of this board, and we have 5 present, and we have 1 present virtually. So we do have a quorum for the board.
That's Ann Zimmerman up there.
Yeah.
Okay, we don't have any guests. Introduction of the new board member.
So we, there was a expiring Mr. Walgren, who previously served on this board. Denny Walgren had served a term, his first term, which is a term is 3 years, and he did reapply to express his interest in being part of the board. As I might have said before, the selection of board members is a mayor of the city function. He selected Ashley for this board, and I wanted to welcome Ashley Campbell to this. Is it Campbell, right? Mm-hmm. Yep, just making sure. I was doubting myself for a second. Ashley Campbell for the board, for the open board position. And I want to welcome her to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board.
Yes, welcome. Glad to have you. Okay, we don't have any citizens forum today. Anybody want an approval of the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
I do have one item on the agenda that I have a misspelling. On item 8A, the word Gleniffer is actually a misspelling of the Gleniffer Hill Park. It's 1 N and 2 Fs. That's actually my typographical error. But I just want to point that out before you approve the agenda. I make a motion to approve that with the change for Gleniffer Hills with 1 N and 2 S. Just want to be thorough.
I'll second it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion approved. Okay, approval of the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Activity reports.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. As I normally do with the activity reports, I will hit some highlights, and if there's any questions you have about anything else, please ask. Landscaping accomplishments. We've had several conversations about Barkley Park. I wanted to report out that there was a first round of pre-emergent chemical applied to the turf at Barkley Park. And then a second round was completed over this Labor Day weekend, this past Labor Day weekend, to try to address that little barley and other various weeds that are a nuisance to dogs in the Barclay Park area. They also, Dennis's crew also added sod and seed around the concrete apron of those dog parks to address some of the drop off or the holes or the areas that were washed out of soil. And then you may have noticed at Bill Burke that we were preparing for seed, and we've accomplished that seeding of those areas that had been our desire is to have Bermuda fescue turf on the outfields of Bill Burke. We had an infestation of Bermuda grass, which is not a bad thing, but it's not our expectation, and it's not the quality that we want for our ball fields. So we killed off the Bermuda with the intent of adding fescue seed. This moisture might help. We've also been experiencing some level of play at the park, so we might be looking for a future where we're going to have to do that again, and to prepare for the grass to be, healed and grown in for spring. Cemetery, there's a nice picture there of the sign at the Marymount entrance. This completes a project. This sign completes a project where we were putting granite signs at all three entrances to Gypsum Hill Cemetery. The two other being were accomplished last year on the Glen Street entrance and on the Iron Street entrance. And this Marymount one was the last of three where we were improving the signage entering into Gypsum Hill Cemetery.
And I think what's been nice with putting all this signage up there is you didn't really know what it was. I mean, whose cemetery it was or that type of thing.
Right.
And with the signage, you finally kind of give definition, and it really is.
Right. And then there's actually two, if you didn't know what you were doing, there's two different cemeteries there. And we did put some additional signage in last year through Dennis's crew to identify if you're going this direction, it's this cemetery. If you're going that way, it's the public cemetery. Lakewood, you can see an image there of a new interactive table that was partially funded from a grant or from Greater Salina Community Foundation. I have not seen this yet myself. I know he talked about it, the supervisor at Lakewood. Very excited about it, and I'm looking forward to seeing it myself.
It's in?
I believe it is in, yeah.
Good. I'll have to check it out.
Senior trips and tours, participation is really picking up. We have trips coming that are we have two recreation vans that are 15-passenger vans, one being the driver. But really, we're using both of those vans to accomplish those trips because the demand for trips and tours, and we're looking at trips and tours regionally. We're not really necessarily going out of state, and no overnight trips, yes. Kenwood Cove, last day was August 11th. We had the pooch plunge on that last day. We had about our normal 200 participants, and what I mean by participants, that's dogs, 200 dogs. Sometimes there was more. There might have been, more than one human per dog, but we count dogs for that event. We started a project in August 26th. We resurfaced the bottom of the lap pool and the walls of the lap pool. That requires a curing time. So right now there is water in the lap pool, and it will be to the end of September. The water is there to help the concrete surface cure, and it has to be brushed daily to get that smooth, non-slip finish that you want from a aggregate product for concrete. Let's see.
On the pool, the revenue's down, looks like, quite a bit. So is there reason for that? Was it more rain?
I don't know the information, and I know what you're most likely going to ask is the number of rain days. I don't have a reason why we were. I don't have an investigation into why we had less revenue this year than the previous year. But we definitely can run a report, and we do collect data about rainouts and rain days, the number of hours or half days and days that we're not able to swim.
Well, and then versus expenses, I just was curious if the revenue covers expenses.
We definitely can provide that for the board next meeting.
He's breaking.
One thing I'll let Travis talk about it, but the Soccer Fest event is part of this report, and if Travis wants to talk about Fieldhouse and athletics accomplishments, I'll let him do so at this time.
Thank you, Jeff. August, if you had to pick a month that recreation is, I guess, slow, August would be it. You know, we're closing down our summer programs. All the attention and focus goes towards school, and I'm okay with that. You know, take a little break, give our staff a little break. Myself, it's one of the busiest months that I do because I'm scheduling fall, winter, spring, and summer of next year already. So, but staff certainly enjoys the break. We have a few things going. I wanted to note that, especially for the new board members, maybe not familiar, Smoky Valley Homeschool, they utilize the facility for all the practices and games now. So they started showing up there early August and with their practices, and they've already gotten going with the games. And that's for volleyball and basketball. So they utilize the facility quite a bit.
I know some of the people that run that, and they really appreciate you.
Yeah, we have, I think, a good working relationship, and it works well for us, and I think it works well for them. So, we do start our own youth volleyball practices there in August, and then we fired up games here early up September. So, I mentioned this. A little bit of it last board meeting, but since it's an August one, we did have a new event in the field house, and it was the Acacia Kansas High School Activities Association coaching school. That was a 2-day event, so it had a lot of visitor spending to the community of Salina, 500 coaches plus, and then 20 plus vendors. That was a really good event for us, and I knew they were looking to maybe look at more demonstration space. I don't know about you guys, but I don't learn very well sitting in a classroom or reading from a book. I like to learn seeing it in action, and that's what they wanted out of their coaches. So we had a good flexible space that they could provide a lot of pretty much all their sports and provide instructors and speakers to really educate those coaches. So I did get a chance to, they did send out a survey. It looked pretty favorable. So we're hoping we can have that as an annual event moving forward. Outdoor athletics, a lot of our summer sports do slow down. However, we're experiencing, just to give you a heads up, we're experiencing influx in Bill Burke, and that's a change for us. And then kind of converting to, you know, taking some reservations, and a lot of people utilizing that facility for the turf. So when there's change, there comes pain. But we're learning, just like the field house, we learned a lot in the first year, and then we make those changes moving forward.
Has parking been an issue with the influx?
At Bill Burke.
Bill Burke, yeah.
We did
speak to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. We did do, a pilot parking lot
Yeah, pilot program.
in the grass. Took pictures every
Okay.
single weekend and everything, and I think one weekend there was 8 cars in there.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that was on the north end where there was a former soccer field at. We had cordoned off an area that allowed for an additional 50-some spots. We did that through 2 or 3 times through the summer on events that were expected to be busy. Just didn't get used.
Sure.
So do you have to access it from the Indian Rock side?
No, you'd have to drive to the north end of Bill Burke off of Crawford to access that spot.
But
There's a little circle that goes around. There's a parking lot back there, and then there's even some spaces not utilized there. Plus,
you're not west of the dike then. In that
no,
old not that old soccer.
there's a
complex.
maintenance shed down there to the
Oh
north.
yeah, I know. What you're talking. Okay,
northeast.
that's the area you're talking. Oh, it's behind there. Okay.
Yeah, that you're along the river. There was 3 soccer fields, and we're using the
Forgot
north
about
soccer
that,
field,
yep.
yeah.
So those pilots didn't really get utilized, but if you ask the public, there's still a parking problem, I guess, maybe, because they can't park right by the field they want to go to. I don't know. So, but we're trying.
Just to add on to that answer, the city, through our planning department, engineering department, have been looking at additional outside-the-box thinking when it comes to parking at Bill Burke to try to, get a better flow of traffic through the entire site. It is a linear site, so using that to our advantage, adding spots, creating more ADA parking opportunities, also creating a drop-off zone where someone can be dropped off from north or south, depending on what field they're playing at. There's not a proposal yet. They're working on something that looks very promising. I'll put it that way. It's going to cost some money, but it could be a future improvement to the parking at Bill Burke to really solve the problem.
And if one of you, I think, if update, I'm not sure if all the board knows this, but in case there's an emergency, like a weather emergency, there is that north exit. Do you want to kind of talk on that, or?
Yeah, I didn't know when we get into the field of recreation that we're kind of meteorologists as well. We have to watch the weather quite a bit, and when we do see that storm coming in, we do have there's an emergency exit, and we have to pull. There's a lock on it. Pull the pole, and then traffic can go out there. I always forget the name of that street. It's right behind there.
Arlington, I believe.
Yeah. So we have directed a lot of traffic through there on when we can see that storm coming or it's severe weather. So that's another exit for them.
Who's responsible for unlocking that?
Our staff.
The staff? Okay.
Any other questions with that? He did mention Soccer Fest. I guess Soccer Fest would be the kickoff to our soccer season, really, because they really start their season in fall and then work all the way through the summer. We did have 140 plus players. Kansas Westland comes out and utilizes their kiddos as instructors. It's just more of a friendly. You show up to play games. Being in August, usually it's hot, so we're well aware of that. We did catch some nice weather that day, though. But I do want to mention that he is in the picture there, Dave Atterkirk, and his last day was August 25th. So he moved on closer to family. We're sure going to miss him. So I told the other board members this. When he started, we had 3 teams. Now we're over 100 some a year. So in the 5-year span, he made a significant improvement, and so we're hoping to carry on his legacy there. But he's going to be missed. We sure thank him for his work.
For sure.
Last thing, I hate to mention this word, but COVID did hinder us in a lot of different ways, and it kind of delayed some of our programs from restarting. Adult softball was probably the last one that's really we've restarted, and there's a lot of factors in there. Officials is probably the biggest one. We have so much going on in the spring and the summer that we just don't have the facilities nor the officials to handle or offer those programs during that time. However, late summer and fall is our avenue, and we had 9 men's and 13 co-ed, and I can tell you we had 14 men's, 14 co-ed this coming fall. So it's back. We're offering that up at Berkeley Family, and they're having a great time. So
And that's slow pitch.
that's slow pitch, yes. That's all I got.
Again, if any board member has any questions about anything we didn't cover, please ask.
I had a quick question, Jeff. I was talking to a couple fishermen down at Lakewood, and they said they were convinced that Lakewood's going to clear out the fish. Is there any substance to that story, or
When you say Lakewood's going to clear
Lakewood
out,
Pond? Yeah, he said something about the park's going to kill the fish off because of an imbalance. Okay,
Ooh.
okay. I just
no,
wanted.
we purposely spend, $5,000, $6,000, $8,000. I think there's a price increase this year on fish.
Yeah.
We get some of that reimbursed from the state of Kansas, but we are committed to introducing trout,
Yeah.
and catfish every year.
And that's what I remember. And we do the trout and catfish, but yeah, he had said something about there being an imbalance of, and I do know there's a bunch of shad and shiners in there, but I didn't. I just want to make sure that wasn't anything that had built
No,
off of or have any substance
No
towards.
plans
so.
that
Okay,
no plans
okay.
that we are
Well, that's
aware
good
of.
to hear.
That is not our goal or our intent.
Sure.
That would not, and that
Sure.
would not be something we would desire whatsoever.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if I bump into him again, I'll let him know.
No more questions? New business?
So I have two and a half pages for you relating to a consideration of a proposed city commission resolution, and it is a draft resolution for the prospective sale of land, which is parkland, named Gleniffer Hill Park. Gleniffer Hill Park is north of Gypsum Street, just adjacent to the USD 305 administrative building on Gypsum. At one point in time, it's my understanding of the history of this property it was at one point in time USD 305 property and was transferred to the school. And I'm going to walk you through this resolution, this draft of a resolution, to give some context in relation to the map that I've provided of the area that we're referring to.
Yeah, it was transferred to Parks, wasn't it? You said to the school.
It's transferred from the school to
Yeah.
the city of Salina,
Yeah, okay.
is what I
All right.
probably meant to say. Thank you for clarifying. It's a 1.65 acre parcel. It has a playground and an asphalt basketball court, but most of the area is remaining is undeveloped open field. About 1.15 acres of an open field that has not been developed and underutilized. Directly to the south of Gleniffer Hill Park is Indian Rock Park, and which has amenities such as a public bathroom, shelter house, the Indian Rock Lodge, hiking trails, but does not currently have a playground piece of equipment at that park. We've had maintained for the past 6 years or so a playground replacement plan, and as part of that plan that we had part of that plan for a long time was to relocate to include a larger scale playground at Indian Rock Park on the north side, and then once that occurs, then that Gleniffer Hill playground would then be surplus. So we've always had this as part of our plan to swap out one playground for another to Indian Rock Park because of the nature of having access to more amenities. It doesn't require someone to cross the street to go to the bathroom, because the bathroom's in Indian Rock. If it was at Gleniffer Hill, they'd have to walk across Gypsum to access the bathroom or access the trail or access parking even, because there is no parking at Gleniffer Hill Park. So as part of that playground replacement schedule, Indian Rock Park has been identified as a proposed location for approximately an 8,000 square foot playground space. It's not even, 8,000 square foot site that would house a playground. It's staff's desire to identify playground unit and additional playground units in hopes that we can get closer to a somewhat inclusive playground for Indian Rock Park, and make it accessible to all. It won't be as large as something like Olivia's Playground, which is an accessible, inclusive playground. But it's our desire to start doing something like that at Indian Rock. This would be one step in towards that overall goal. And Gleniffer Hill has been one of our least utilized parks for some time. We know that because we did some geofencing information or geofencing study where we created a geofence around the playground 3 or 4 years ago with a company in town that will collect data relating to cell phone usage in certain zones. Gleniffer Hill was of the playground units that we geofenced. Gleniffer Hill was on the very bottom as far as percentage of use. Now there could be a case that kids don't carry cell phones. The neighborhood might be accessing it, but it was identified as one of the least used and underutilized playgrounds. Additionally, there was 2 pieces of equipment at Gleniffer Hill Playground that we removed because of an insurance company recommendation to do so. One was a merry-go-round piece, and one was a climbing dome piece that insurance people have opinions about as being something that we should consider removing, and we went ahead and did that last year. And so the pieces of equipment remaining are few. There's a swing set and a few small pieces at Gleniffer Hill.
So would you be looking at something more like Oxbow Park you just put in?
We're looking at approximately a playground that would be about the same price range as the one we just put in Oxbow.
Because I've noticed that one having to get a lot more usage than I've ever seen. So
the Oxbow playground was approximately $135,000, and we got quite a few pieces. We're able to serve ages 2 to 5 and 5 to 12, which is kind of the age differences of the playground equipment based on how complicated it is for those age groups to use. So the letter H of it is the resolution is the recommendation that we're asking for the board to consider is to declare this parkland as surplus property and make it available for redevelopment through a request for proposal process. And then the second part of the agreement would be to use the funds from the sale of this parkland towards the purchase of a playground for Indian Rock Park. It would still serve the community. It would still serve that neighborhood. Matter of fact, I would argue that it could serve it better than the current playground that's there.
much better.
Let's see what else we got here. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board might have about this. Again, I provided the map, and you can see on the map the underutilized space in the current playground spot, the asphalt basketball court spot at Gleniffer Hill, and then the proposed location of the playground at Indian Rock Park. And it's adjacent to the shelter house and the restroom there. It's also on the park road, which would allow us to put in accessible pathways to get from parking. Well, for one, we could put in parking on the park road and then make accessible pathways to that proposed location for the playground. And again, I'm sorry, I'll stop talking, and if there's any questions that you might have for me, please ask.
So the money from the sale stays in Parks and Rec?
Correct.
Good.
That's the proposal we would be going forward as the resolution to the City Commission.
Jeff, have we looked at anything about what we would yield as far as the market value of that property?
We estimate it would be based on a kind of a what was for sale and the square footage of that proposed property. We estimate it could be sold for anywhere between 175 to 225,000.
And on that, would there be any zoning restrictions with regard to the development that goes on it?
I'm not an expert on that. Once it gets sold to a developer, that's kind of outside my department. That kind of goes towards the neighborhood development office, development department for the city of Salina. They're most likely to, from my limited knowledge, there most likely would have to be a zoning change to change the zone from park to something else.
Call for a motion to pass this.
That's what I was thinking.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right.
Make
So-
a motion for the approval of the sale of Gleniffer Hill.
If you can phrase it as a recommendation,
Recommendation,
that'd be outstanding.
recommendation of the sale of Gleniffer Hill Park. All in favor, say aye.
You need to take a
We
motion.
have to get a motion and
Oh.
a second.
Forget the motion.
I can move. I'll try it. Okay.
I'll second the motion.
I move that we recommend that we declare the park as, what do you call it? Excess or something like that?
Surplus.
Surplus, thank you. And, which will allow them to sell.
So we have a motion, and I think we might have heard a second.
Second, yep.
You seconded it? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion passed.
Thank you.
Any old business?
I have nothing on the agenda.
Okay. Project updates?
Travis and I last night, late during the evening hours, visited Dean Evans Stadium and Pestinger Family Stadium to inspect the work of the light company who installed new LED lighting at Pestinger Family Stadium and replacement light heads for LED on Dean Evans. And I was really impressed. It made me think I should have brought my ball glove and played catch with Travis. But it reminded me of a professional Major League Baseball, like if you were on the field yourself, and it gave me all the warm and fuzzy feelings about baseball. So it's moving quite along. Pestinger Family Stadium. We have park signs up to indicate the change of names from Wilbur Field to Pestinger Family, and then also for Wilbur Field from Tower Field or for Central Field on the south end. There are some fencing work that still needs to be done. There's some grass seeding and irrigation that needs to be done. There's some electric work that needs to be done. For a flagpole, we need to get a flagpole in. That's going to be on the city to do that. Travis, looks like you might have a couple of
Yeah, with the
updates.
flagpole, we're relocating it further to the northeast, so it can be shared from both stadiums. Where the current flagpole is now at Dean Evans is right outside the outfield fence. If you know where, it's going to go further back to the north and east and be a little taller, so we can double utilize it for both fields.
And we're looking at 45 feet.
Yeah.
So it'd be tall enough to can be seen from both grandstands.
And the batting cages are going in right now as we speak. The turf is being laid down, and so you'll see those being put up. The concrete's there, the turf's getting laid. You'll see the batting cages here shortly.
And then the Salina Baseball Enterprises work is going to continue with the grandstand it'll be a similar grandstand to what you might see at Salina South. And then there's some elevated seating components, so they got a little more work to do. But as far as substantially completed for a ball field, I think we're pretty close. Jerry Ivy Memorial Park. So we're in a agreement with a design and engineering firm for Jerry Ivy Memorial Park. We have a study session on Monday with the City Commission. Starts at 2:30 p.m. on Monday, September 23rd. Is that the 23rd? And it's kind of looking at a preliminary design for the south end of Jerry Ivy to make improvements, including a splash pad, a water feature, a updated memorial to the police officer that the park is named after, and some other site improvements, connectivity improvements, landscaping additions. I'm very impressed by it. I think it's coming along pretty well. So that's where we're at with that. And I did not have a preliminary design to show you today. If I had it in a fashion in which I can display it, it's coming together last minute, I would have made it available to the board. However, I'm glad to do it next month to provide you that preliminary look at that Jerry Ivy Park. Kenwood Park bathrooms, we're working right along. Those, if you're familiar with the older style bathrooms we have at Sunset Park and Kenwood Park and Oakdale Park, we started with the bathroom that's nearest Petals Flowers on Center Street, and that is the one that's being renovated. We're getting ready to finish up the electrical and plumbing. We're getting ready to finish up the plumbing. We've done some exterior modifications. We've cleaned up the brick. So we're getting ready to remodel those bathrooms. And then we'll be moving on to Oakdale in the center bathroom complex at Oakdale Park to have that ready to go before Riverfest next year. I've talked about it as well. We're looking at lightning detection for the Kenwood Oakdale Park area. That is on order. We should receive that probably maybe in January of next year, and then it'll be installed. Obviously, weather pending, but it is on order. I've talked about it before with the board to offer a lightning detection and annunciation or a horn through that Oakdale Kenwood complex, which would serve not only the YMCA as far as their outdoor activities, but tennis on the north end, Kenwood Cove, Oakdale Park if there was a special event going on, such as the River Festival, pickleball, thank you, Travis, TPAC if they have an outdoor event, so and the county events. So that whole complex, we see it as serving all of that.
And it was how does it work? I mean,
It's the same as Bill Burke. Go ahead.
Are you familiar with our system at Bill Burke? We installed that
2014.
It's been a minute, 10 years.
I've never been to when they've activated it.
So it's there in the right field of field 4, and when that horn goes off, it goes off. So what it does is there's you can set your parameters, but usually a 10-mile radius is your
10 mile,
parameters.
yeah.
And once lightning is detected in that 10-mile radius, that horn goes off. And then we get an automatic email to our phones, or people that usually program in that area are under alert. And then we do have, it's called a Bill Burke timer. Of course, if you're a ball team waiting around for the horn, it'll go off 3 times once it gets to clear. So it'll detect if that lightning struck again within that parameters, then your 30 minutes starts over. We do have that clock on our website because people are pretty interested in that. When can we get back on the field? It'll tell you. So that's what we're looking at. And then once, the storm moves off, if our fields are still playable, which turf helps, Then I'll give the three horns, and then you can get back to playing. Same system for Oakdale Park. It works pretty well.
And as far as lightning policy, Bill Burke has a policy, Kenwood Cove has a policy, and once we have the lightning detection, we would start, communicating our policy. It's not that, and I just want to make it clear, we're not going to actively go through Oakdale Park and kick out every user of Oakdale Park. However, there's a special event that's under a permit. We can incorporate that language into the permit if and communicate it to our partners around, whether it be TPEC or county or tennis or Y. So, and they give them that as a tool to improve life safety, in my opinion. I didn't add it to the list, but we have a bid out for regrading Matson Fields. And Matson Field, it's due next week. But Matson Fields it has a bid for contractors to give us a fee estimate or a fee for regrading Matson Field. And then
Is that the first one?
I'm sorry, sir.
Is that the first one to the north?
Yes.
Correct.
Right off of Crawford?
Yes.
So will the new fire station change that usage any, or it's not
No.
going to affect it?
Now, that north parking pad that is at Markley will be part of the firehouse complex. But once you get from the fence, the outfield fence south, that's all continues to be park property. But anything north of that outfield fence, from a drawing that I saw maybe 4 months ago, that might have changed, but that's my understanding. There's an irrigation well there that's still city property. So there's some things that, would still be all city property. But as far as parkland and the delineation of it, it's outfield fence.
So is there lightning detection out at that complex? Because we have golf and all the baseball diamonds?
There is not. However, my direction from the city manager was to look at lightning detection for the golf course.
And you kind of get all the ball diamonds too. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you're right. If I had it for the golf course, it would also serve Markley Road. That's all updates I had about projects. I do have a few general announcements when we get to that, but if you have questions about projects.
Any update on Dean Evans and Passenger Field fees?
There was a commission action item August 26th, where they did approve selected fees. There were certain fees that were approved relating to schools and regular users. Any fee that had to do with college use was to be determined at a later time, and those were postponed. But there were certain fees approved and certain ones to be considered at a future date. And we're working through that right now actively to kind of come up with a proposal and come back to City Commission. I'm not sure if the city manager is going to want me to come back to the individual boards at this point in time, but we are making some changes, and I think it would be prudent to do so.
Then also your animal shelter update, the study session. I mean, you did a good job.
Oh, well, thank you. It was a lot of it was updated about animal shelter, and there wasn't. It was good. The primary meat of the conversation of the study session was related to the animal shelter has donated funds that the city holds and accounts for. Actually, the department, accounts for them, and we use those for several different things, mostly for the care and welfare of animals, and also facility improvements to the shelter. It has been used in the past for dog parks, Barkley Dog Park in particular. One of my main requests of the study session to get some feedback from was related to an additional dog park on the north end of town, we have a dog park on the north end of town, but it's directly behind the animal shelter, and it is a strong recommendation from the state of Kansas Department of Agriculture, who inspects and oversees and permits and certifies animal shelters, that we do not have a mixed-use dog park, that we should not be mixing public dogs and our dogs, the shelter dogs, whether or not they use it at the same time or not. That it's they should not be any chance of any cross-contamination of whatever illnesses, parasites, whatever you want, whatever you say, between shelter animals and private citizens' animals. So it's been their strong recommendation to do so. We have closed that dog park behind the shelter a handful of times with criticism when we do so. Recently we had an outbreak of kennel cough in the shelter. We closed the dog park. We got negative feedback relating to why we closed the dog park, because we're trying to prevent cross-contamination of illnesses, whether coming into the shelter or going out of the shelter, to public dogs. So hence our proposal to add an additional small dog park to the park that's on 2nd Street by Carver Center, which is called Parker Park, and a small piece of underutilized land adjacent to the Carver Center. That was probably more information you wanted.
You're responsible for it, so it's nice to, that's part of the advisory stuff too.
Yeah,
So
right. But if there's any other questions about project updates?
I don't. Does Ann have any? If not,
Ms. Zimmerman, do you have any
No, I
comments?
don't have any, no.
Thank you.
okay, so we're done with general announcements.
yes.
I do have one before we adjourn. Just bring this item to your attention. We have a consistent problem with this, not just in one sport, but all of our sports, and that's rescheduling games. So I wanted to bring this item to your attention. I'm actually giving you some homework. I've seen several different ways. The way we currently handle this is we try to handle it as much on the front side as possible. When teams register, we give those coaches an opportunity to list any dates. Hey, try to avoid scheduling our games on this date or on Fridays or whatever the case may be. Over the years, we've learned that there's just some dates that we're just not going to schedule games or programs, Riverfest, Super Bowl Sunday, those type of things we've learned. But what we can't read their minds when we're scheduling and we have certain parameters that we have to schedule. We do give them their chance to voice their opinions, to stay away. But 99% of the time, once we release that schedule, our phone is ringing off the hook. So what I'm interested in is if there's any ideas you may have. I got a few of them that once we release the schedule, unless it's an act of God or weather pending, we just don't reschedule. Is that the thing we want to do? Or in previous, we've bent over backwards rescheduling for them. Well, they get used to that. So, and then we do our homework. Well, why did you want to reschedule? Well, it from a legit reason to, hey, my starting pitcher wasn't going to be there that night. So there's an array of reasons. But I want to maybe create a policy, a rescheduling policy for all of our sports. One that was mentioned is, give them 1 week after schedules are released to voice their concerns or anything. Give them that week. We'll try to make that happen. But after that, it's done. I've seen fees. Well, if you want to reschedule a game, it's going to cost you $100 or whatever. Because where I'm getting at is it's very taxing on staff. People don't realize that, but we've put a lot of work into scheduling on the front side, and all of a sudden we reschedule a game. Well, those umpires are already scheduled. We have to pay them. So it does burden us time-wise and financial-wise. So if there's any recommendations you have off the top of your head or bring to me before next meeting, because I'm probably going to come back with this and try to maybe get a recommendation from you to implement in all of our sports. That way it's just not Travis Shaley making this up, right? So.
Yeah. And, we're obviously identifying improvements to processes. If we don't have a process or a policy relating to it, we need to put that in place. So Travis has identified that. I told him my direction to him was to, put it in front of you and for you to think about, for you to consider, and get back to us. And we will have an end of year fee proposal for 2025 coming before you. So we thought it was timely to ask your feedback.
I agree with you, Travis. I've been there, and you start getting the volume of people you're working with. Just because the Chiefs are playing on a Sunday doesn't mean you're going to reschedule. It just, I figured that was one of them. And it's just, how many teams do you run? And in a year, you start putting that out there, and there's just finally a point you say, look, this is the way it is.
490 to be exact.
Yeah, so
we're running 400 to 500 league teams, and then for us to reschedule, it's quite taxing.
And then you have maybe 10 to 12 to 20 kids on a team.
Yeah.
That takes also a lot out from the parents because one team usually can do it and the other one can't. So
it's one thing to reschedule because of weather. We get that. And when Bill Burke, before it was turfed, and I remember this, it was my first full year here. That was the flood of 2007. If you remember that, I rescheduled 486 ball games that year.
I think
and rescheduling is not it's not fun because you're not going to make anybody happy. No. So I just want something in writing that we could implement.
Totally agree.
A few additional quick announcements. I heard, I saw a post relating to a indoor pickleball courts coming to the city. I'm sorry, the city, the Salina community, not to the city of Salina. It's not my project. I believe it's through Sky Gymnastics on 9th Street. They're looking to put in indoor pickleball courts, and I think that shows you to somewhat of the growth of the sport. But I think it gives another option for people to play pickleball in this town. We have a big, huge tennis tournament this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday at the tennis complex at Kenwood Park. We have cornhole this weekend. A special populations therapeutic rec cornhole tournament this weekend.
That's what we're at.
Fieldhouse.
Cool.
This is a new event. It's with Sarah Hageman. She runs the we call them our peeps, therapeutic recreation. They're just awesome. And so we're trying to coordinate with the Special Olympics group. And this is our first event with them. And it's a Special Olympics cornhole. That'll be in the field house this weekend. So first time event. I'm really looking forward to it. And like any first event, we really learn from those first events and then grow the second one. So looking forward to that. Plus, we're scheduled to have 42 teams at Bill Burke on Sunday. It'll be packed.
For
Youth fast pitch. So the next 4 to 5 weekends, you'll see a lot of activity out there at Bill Burke utilizing those turf fields.
That's all the general announcements I had.
Do they still have that horseshoe? They have horseshoes here in town.
We do not have a proper horseshoe pit. We have horseshoe pits at Sunset. We have removed the clay and the pins from those horseshoe pits. It's been our plan all along, and I've presented this to you before about our intent to demolish the Sunset tennis courts and the Sunset horseshoe area. I neglected to add it to the project list, but that is forthcoming this fall to remove those areas and restore that back to a seeded grass area for potentially a future improvement. But those areas will be demolished. So we don't have horseshoe pits in this town technically in our city park system.
Okay. Just out of curiosity.
Will that also include the basketball court that's back there?
It does not include the basketball court. That would be bad news. It gets very popular. So no, that does not include the basketball court. I just want to I want to make that clear to the public. It does not include the basketball court. That will remain. That's all I had. Got in your special general announcements.
Okay, since there's nothing else, shall we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move that we adjourn.
All in favor, say aye.
We didn't get a second. You have to get a second.
Oh, gotta have a second. Sorry about that. Anybody get a second?
I'll second.
Good. Okay. Now, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Same sign.
Thank you.